Hello and welcome. What the stories say? I'm Dr. Pauline Baird, your cultural bearer from the village of Buxton, Guyana. And as you know, I tell the stories of my village, Buxton. I tell our family histories, our whispered stories, our practice, hidden, lost, and sometimes forgotten traditions. And what the stories say, y'all come in. Today, I am wearing House of Basadi, made by Lynette Johnson in South Africa. She's on Instagram, I think. And I'm also wearing this string scarf by Dara, handmade. Dara is my sister, my youngest sister, and she's in Antigua. She makes linens and things. Look, her clothes are beautiful, hand painted, hands down, rocking. Check her out. This is an old scarf, but I kind of like it today to match with my House of Basadi. What y'all think? Check her out, Dara, Instagram. She's got you covered. Well, today I want to tell y'all stories about school days. So, I was thinking about high school. You know, I first started high school at Buxton Government Secondary School, or what we called front school. That's on Watson Street, on the corner of Watson Street and Friendship Road. So I went to that school, and our first form was at very top of the building, top right. And we had a good time there. I started thinking about school. I was excited when I got to go to high school. You know, get your new socks, your new shoes. Now, man, shoes at the time. My mother was alive, so I get nice shoes. And I got my uniform. It was gray skirt, A-line skirt, and your bolero and your white shirt. Y'all remember that? Right. But there was a thing that we heard about high school that wasn't in elementary school. We used to hear about prefects. Y'all know? Prefects, the prefect body was a body of students, like your student government. And they ran like the disciplinary part of the school. They would see kids who were skulking. Skulking means that you're being a truant. And those who were late, who were in violation of the school dress code. If you were wearing pink socks, you had to wear white socks. If you had anything like that, they would get you straight. I used to admire prefects. Yes, I admired them. You know, they carry themselves well. They walk, you know, chipper and so on. They had this air. And I used to think that I want to be a prefect too. Well, I became a prefect at Bladen Hall Government Secondary School. But that's when I realized when you're a prefect, you got the brick bottle behind you. They used to say, prefect a dog walk. So that's all the jealousy talk. But that aside, I was an 11-year-old going on 12 who was excited about this whole new system. So here are the prefect thing used to work. If you're late for school, they will pull you up, call you up, and give you punishments. I don't know what kind of punishments you guys got when the prefects, you know, found you in error. But let's say you were late for school. The prefect would be at the gate when the bell rings. Let's say school started at 8:30. If you come up at 8:45, the prefects are there. They take the names down. And then they report you to the principal or whoever it is, or the prefect body or wherever. But you used to get punishment. And the punishment used to go like this. You would get detention. Detention is where you were held back after school in some room or some classroom or some place. Not just you and others, everybody in error. They would be by the prefect who pulled them in, and they have to do something called writing lines. So in elementary school, we heard about the writing of the lines. And then when you go to high school, you actually see this thing in progress. So let's say you're a habitual latecomer. Like my friend Colleen. Colleen, always late. That was she claimed to fame. Because, of course, she got to do Doreen walk. And we know that Doreen a Hitler wife. That was because she secret behind she back. Because she so work she hard. And that lady was something else. So anyway, Colleen just come to school late. So, example, Colleen. When Colleen come to school late, the principal, the prefect says she got to write lines. So let us say the lines are, I must not be late for school. And it depends on how much you do this thing. They might say 50 lines the first time. The second time was the 75 lines. But sometimes 100 lines are 150 lines. So when you got this 100 lines to write, now you got to get your exercise book. So I get a book here to show you the example. So imagine this is your exercise book. And you got to sit down after school, 3:30 or whatever, and write in, I must not be late for school. Well, guess what? You think prefect smart, we ain't smart? Picnic smart too. So guess what? When them tell you got to write these lines, 100 lines, you gonna get 5 pen? I get 4 here, right? You get about 5 pen. And you hold your book so. It doesn't say how big you got to write this letter, you know. You decide, you get a 5 pen and you begin. I, a 5 I, you know. Must, a 5 must, and so on. So you can finish fast. So friend does tell friend, hey, get a cup of pen and just write the thing. I don't know if the prefects used to vex with you if you do that. But strict to the government, wiser the population. That's how it used to go. So those were either good memories for you or bad memories. I don't think I ever had detention. I can't remember. But I know that used to happen. But back to my friend Colleen, she used to get detention steady. And as I said, she always late. But you know, after a while, me and my friend Joy used to notice a thing. All of a sudden, Colleen would get called sometimes, and we know she's not late, you know. She get called up. Some prefect called she. And when we asked her what happened, she said, girl, I gotta go detention. Detention for what? You are late today? She said, he said, I gotta go detention. When this thing started to happen steady, that me and Joy started notice, how come Colleen get detention when she not do nothing? You know, in looking back, I understand what that's about. That's an exercise of power that's not supposed to be. This prefect, this male prefect sometimes, used to abuse their power and detain young girls with the aim of getting involved with them, or we call it soaring the girls, to make love relationships with these girls. Now that's an abuse of power. We know that. We know that now, looking back, I can see how detention is a hotbed for an exercise of sexual harassment. And parents need to be aware of this. Teachers need to be aware of this. Male teachers, you see, back in the day, they were pupil teachers. You could be 17 and be a pupil teacher. You could be 18. I started at 17, my teaching career. And so half my life I've been teaching. And so I could see when you're 17 and you have, let's say you're teaching in elementary school, and you have kids who are 12 and so on, and 11 and 10, they see you as a big person. But you're not really big. You just, you know, a teacher. I was in high school and I had Miss Kwamina and these different people. We thought they were big people, but they weren't really big in age. They were, just at the QC, maybe 17, 18, and they look like adults to us. But that said, if we don't understand how the exercise of power or the wrongly executed exercise of power operates, our children become victims and young teachers become victimizers. And this message is for young teachers. Do not be a victimizer. Understand your power and act in that power for the good. Because here's what. When you exercise that power to abuse that child, detain that child without cause, you might teach that child how to be an abuser. And that's where the problem happens. And another thing is, don't think that if you abuse that power, children forget. Children don't forget. I'm a child that hasn't forgotten. I remember those things. And now in my adult years, I'm able to parse them and see where the injustices are. Young people, be aware. Know what your rights are. If you're late and the prefects are there, obey. Do what you got to do and do better. But it doesn't mean because you were in error, someone has a right to abuse you and detain you without cause or make up some stupid cause. So there my friend Colleen, go into detention steady. And when we come out and ask her, Colleen, what you had to do in detention? Nothing. What you been doing in there? He was just talking to me. Talking to you? Well, if Colleen mama been no, I tell you, it would have been hell to play at a school. But then here's the other side of that. Sometimes girls don't tell their mothers, or boys, because boys can abuse you, you know. They don't tell their parents, because sometimes you have these parents who are tantaria. The children frighten them. They don't get a rapport. They don't want to tell their mother that they get detained. Oh yes? So all this kind of ignorance, we got to let that go. Village people, we got to let that go. We cannot be facilitators of abusers. We cannot be facilitators of predatory behaviors. I've read Guyana newspapers and I've heard of male teachers at certain fancy high school, elite schools, who take it upon themselves to groom young girls. befriend them and groom them for his benefit. We got to watch that. We got to watch that. We got to be better. So my word is for the young people. Enjoy school, exercise your rights, have fun, but always know what your rights are. And let me talk this thing and let's spread the word. We can do better. We must do better. Because when we hand down the practices that we've engaged in and been experiencing to the next generation, we determine who they are. And people like me who've gone through that system, I'm going to speak out. I'm speaking out now. It's got to stop. And I'm thinking that if it happened then, probably it's happening now. And it can happen. We need to stop that. So yeah, I think. Yeah, well, good. Coming up, I'm going to tell you another story. And as you know, when I sit down these days, I do a bunch of stories. That's because sometimes I don't have the time to sit down and give these stories. I have a very busy life. And I still want to tell our stories to connect to our people so we can examine our stories and learn for ourselves and influence future generations. And two, I want to give y'all something to enjoy. So, y'all are good? And comment in below how you feel about that. And if you have experiences with these, let's share it, because in telling the stories, we change lives. Wow, good. Before I go, let me show you one thing. Newest book on the market on Amazon, Encounters, Afro-Caribbean Proverbs, and 1 Dirty Bill Dam. This book, I wrote this book with love. It's a collection of African Caribbean proverbs. And it is meant to have you write your stories. Many of you have said to me, I want to write my stories. I don't know how to start. Well, here you got to start. You got a book, right? And here how you write it. This one is called Laffy Laffy Gal, Easy for Dodo. Laffy Laffy Gal, Easy for Dodo. August 15, 2020. In early childhood, I used to giggle a lot. It was my go-to response to anything my mother said, and she hated it. Girl, stop. You better stop laughing. I didn't. I continued my mirthful ways, even in school, much to my older sister's consternation. Bonnie, my sister, would go home and tell my mother that I was always laughing with the boys. One day, my mother had had enough. She said, you go on with that laughing. Listen to me, laffy laffy gal, easy for dodo. I didn't understand what she meant, but I knew it was not a compliment. When my grandmother said, stop the nonsense, what's chopping to tell the girl? She didn't understand. I was very close to my grandmother Bertha, and she and I had a bond that surpassed my mother's. Later that day, when my grandmother found some time, she said to me, do you know what your mother meant? No, I said. My grandmother simply said, when you laugh too much with boys, they will lead you astray. I doubted her because I knew that wasn't something I would ever do. Being led astray, to my mind, meant that you go with others where they told you to go. And I was not that kind of girl. By the way, I attended primary school in the city, some 12 miles away from the village. Being that far away was always a concern for my parents. So I told my grandmother, Bertha, I don't go anywhere. I come home straight after school. I wasn't the kind to follow boys and going astray and straying about the place. To my mind, straying was synonymous to the pastime of animals like stray cat and stray cow. They were always wandering around the village streets in Buxton. But my grandmother said, listen to me, child, she means that boys will take advantage of you. She didn't have to say any more. I read between the lines. That day, I learned the meaning of the proverb and more. I learned that my smile and giggles and laughter threatened the safety of my femaleness. I stopped laughing. To this day, I wear a serious face. This warning is meant to protect women and girls. There is no such proverb for men and boys. It is a real tragedy when a girl child must grow up to guard or muzzle her mirth to protect herself from being perceived as easy from a very young age. A loss of innocence and a sense of freedom are high prices to pay to gain sexual awareness and self-protection. This proverb has been in use since the 1900s among Africans in Guyana. It speaks to gender issues and the treatment of women and girls among the enslaved and formerly enslaved Africans in Guyana. In the day and age of the Me Too movement, this proverb is particularly meaningful, reminding women and girls that much has changed, yet so little. Women are still targeted, and they are still fighting for the right to their own bodies. This story was given to me by Colleen Dean Holder. I would like to raise an army of writers. One dirty bill dam. If you want to be a damn writer, join me. I'm going to give away 10 books to interested What is Story Sayers. So drop me a line and I will give you this book. Send me your email and your address. I will give you this book. And join me in January when we begin to come write with me. I want an army of damn writers who are going to write this down one line at a time. Come on, encounters. Y'all are good.